Una broke away from her dancing partner and joined me. Are you having fun? I asked, handing her the red wine. And not really. It's more for business than pleasure. And what are you dancing with a group of handsome men? It's a good job if you can get it. That old guy in the gray suit is going to want to feel your ass soon. I nodded at the man next to me. He's been staring at you for 20 minutes now. Come to this corner for a moment, sufferer. And for God's sake, smile. You're embarrassing me. Am I embarrassing you? Who would talk? We were standing at one end of the bar, where it was quiet. She was smiling at me. People could be watching, so I played along and smiled back. Listen carefully, Peter. I work in sales. My basic salary is good, but the commission is even better. I am good at my job, and this year, I have completed 3 of the 7 largest deals of the company. This party is dedicated to my latest success. At the end of this month, 50% of my commission will be transferred to the bank. The rest will go towards my Christmas bonus. I know all this. And there's something else, you know. This bonus, which I will receive, will pay for your dream vacation next year. A highway on the Pacific Coast? Big Sur? Monterey? Whale watching. I even earned enough to rent a Mustang convertible for 3 weeks. I know that too. This is my reward for being dragged to this boring party. For having to watch my girlfriend flirt with a group of guys while some old pervert undresses you with his eyes. It's annoying. Well, here's something else you obviously don't know. The managers who signed the contract this week are 2, not a group. Each of them had only 2 dances with me. This is expected. They didn't grope me, touch me inappropriately, or even dance cheek to cheek. Okay, I'm sorry, I said. And the older guy who's watching me, this is the CEO of the company, insists on being called Gavin. Yes, he's watching me, of course. He adheres to the moral standards of the company. The hand on my ass is longer than a second, and on Monday I will be taken to his office and I will be shown a yellow card. My God, he even checks the time we spend on lunch. And we are never allowed to go to a business lunch at the hotel, just in case we are tempted. So maybe take it easy? Fair enough, I will. But you do understand that this will not prevent him from being attracted to you. If I wanted to keep the last word for myself, I failed. Yes, it is. He's gay. We joined the crowd again. I don't really like parties, but I made up for my blunder by dancing with Una and chatting with the managers and Gavin, and smiling a lot. Maybe I ate and drank too much too, but she seemed satisfied. Our bed life is already pretty hectic. We've both been married before. My ex and I had 2 children, and then she persuaded me to have a vasectomy. A year later, she asked for a no-fault divorce. Thanks. She immediately picked up an American and left with my sons for San Diego. There was nothing I could do about it, but at least I had to pay child support. Chuck is rich. This probably influenced my interest in the west coast of the USA. Over the past 2 years, I have only managed to see my boys once. Una had previously been married to a guy who was insanely jealous and practically kept her under lock and key. This was reported to her husband, and he admitted that he had an affair. He, in turn, told this to a woman with whom he had an affair, and her husband quickly beat up Una's ex. She filed for divorce on the grounds of his infidelity, but he died before the case was considered. There were rumors that the cause of the stroke was a beating, but nothing could be proved. There was no life insurance, just debts, and the whole thing made her sensitive to jealousy. That's why I pissed her off at the party. So, after getting married, we took care of our small rented apartment. The plan was to restore the financial situation and get married when we can afford to buy an apartment. Fortunately, Una is not interested in having children. Her bonus and sales figures entitle her to an extra week off next summer when business is down. She is more than happy that my children will join us on our journey along the Pacific Coast Highway. My ex agrees too. The next day, Saturday, Una told me even more stories about her boss. He lives unnoticed with a male partner. They are not married and never show their affection in public. He often sends clerks to restaurants to check who the sales representatives are buying dinner for. And when they have to leave on business, it is believed that he pays various hotel staff to keep track of who is in which room, whether they have visitors, and so on. It wasn't until Sunday morning that I realized I hadn't gone to the bathroom the day before. I usually walk quite regularly and suspect that my natural rhythms may have been disrupted by something I ate at the party. By Sunday evening, My stomach was hurting. I often stayed up late at work. There has been a serious malfunction in the computer system. It took me 6 months to get to the bottom of the problem. The initial error occurred a year ago and grew like a lump. I was in constant contact with our branch office in San Francisco, which was working with a parallel system. Hence the increasing fascination with their stories about the highway on the Pacific coast, which I have seen in many films. They were inclined to be sarcastic because our British system often malfunctioned, while their system was error-free. But the end of the problem was just around the corner, so I had no choice but to go to work on Monday with a sore stomach. Una and I live in an old house with a terrace. The rent is low, and it was all we could afford when we first met. The house has a tiny entrance hall, from which you can immediately climb the stairs to 2 bedrooms or a living room combined with a kitchen. There is a small bar between them, on which there is a huge potted plant. We don't receive guests very often. A door at the back of the kitchen leads to an unusual hall. It is a square with a side of about a meter with doors on all 4 sides. One, of course, leads back to the kitchen. The next one goes to the place with shelves where the water heater is located. My mother always called it a ventilation cabinet. Then there is the door to the bathroom attached to the back of the house. It looks like something taken for granted and appeared in those days when people washed in the kitchen sink and the toilet was at the end of the garden. Now there is a small shed, in which the old bathtub is still suspended. Finally, there is a back door on the side of the house, facing the wall between us and the neighboring house. There, on the left, on the way to the enclosed garden, you pass by our bathroom. When I got home on Monday, I still had a stomachache. But Una didn't report that anyone else was hurt after the party. I refused lunch and dinner, and in the evening I finally unloaded. Well, don't you hate those sessions after which you just wipe and wipe? After half a roll of toilet paper, I finished and did the last flush. That's just not how it was, because not everything was gone. I waited and tried again, but the toilet was dangerously full. I thought its murky contents would spill onto the floor. It's time to work with a plunger. Like most people, I don't like this activity, but I wanted to clean the toilet before Una left. A few vigorous movements repaired the leak, and everything was fine. There was a shower above the old one, and its watering can just reach the toilet. A minute of hot water helped me wash the bowl and rinse the plunger. I washed my hands, went and made myself a sandwich. I was starving. On Tuesday, my daily routine was restored. Shit, shower and shave, as my old grandfather used to say, and my working day was triumphant. We tested the system and it finally became error-free. In all departments of the company, all computer functions began to work faster and faster. My boss, Cliff, was delighted and mumbled something indistinctly about the bonus. Of course, I would prefer a promotion, and for this purpose, I trained an assistant, Eric, during my work. Now he was as good at troubleshooting as I was. Well, almost. That evening, I invited Una to dinner, but he did not mention his success at work. I thought it would be better to wait and see if additional money appeared on the horizon. When we got home, we sat down in front of the TV. "There's just time to poop," she said as the opening credits rolled. Una is one of those who likes to announce their bodily functions. "I need to pee" is a pretty standard conversation starter. She came back when the movie started. "Sorry, Pete, the toilet is clogged, and you're a man with a plunger. Would you be so kind as to see to it, okay?" "Of course. I'll go during the first commercial break, but I'm not comfortable leaving it like this." "Well, please." And I went and did my duty in the bathroom again. It took dipping the plunger several times, rinsing off the water 3 times and quickly showering. On Friday morning, it clogged up again, and I called our landlord from work. "Listen, Peter, this is provided for in your lease, but now I'm off my feet and I won't be able to come until the end of next week. How would you like to do it yourself?" "I'm not going to crawl through the sewers, Len." "You don't have to. Last time I saw what caused it. It's not very pleasant, but it's not difficult at all. Go on. There's a square inspection hatch behind your back door. It serves yours and the next door. There's passes under the dividing wall. Your toilet flushes into the sewer pipe going straight to this entrance. There is a small concrete shelf under the lid at the end of each pipe. That's where the blockage usually gathers. It's amazing how close to the surface it is in these old houses. What you're flushing passes a few centimeters under the path. Okay, I'll try. Thanks. Let me know how you're doing. By the way, there's a long metal pole hidden behind your water heater in the closet. It lifts the lid and can also scrape out a blockage. The work project was completed. I got up early for once and found a pole. He stood at the back door, and the square hatch was easily removed. It revealed exactly what Lynn described. A round pipe was installed to the left of the square hole, going straight into the depths of the sewer. She created a curved shelf on the top and left, where the drains of my and the neighbors' apartments went out. You always imagine that the drains and sewer pipes are much lower than here. The neighbor's side was clean, but mine was clogged. No matter how disgusting this site was, I felt it my duty to go get my phone and take a couple of pictures for posterity. It only took a few scratches, and the shit rushed out in a hurry. In the bathroom, I flushed the toilet and went back out to see how it flowed free. Then he filled a bucket with hot water from the shower and added half a bottle of bleach. I washed the pole and wrapped its end in a plastic bag. He could have stayed outside overnight to dry out. I poured the rest of the bucket directly into the toilet, flushing away the last culprits. I felt like a hero and took a shower. That same Friday night, we were just finishing dinner when my cell phone rang. Cliff was still at work and panicking. I stuck the last piece of chicken between two slices of bread, thinking that this was where the Count sandwich started. Then he kissed Una and returned to the house. It was daytime in San Francisco, and their system malfunctioned. Eric and a few other guys were on the phone with America. They told them about the procedure, step by step. Cliff led me into his office. The problem is exactly the same as what we just solved here. We? Okay, Peter, you and Eric have dealt with this. What are the consequences of downtime? How did you solve this problem here? I started a parallel system so that I could work on the original while the office continued to work. It wasn't ideal because I had to break away from repair work to deal with the inevitable office disruptions. 8 to 10 times a day, although it was reduced to 2 or 3 as we approached the finish line. Can the Americans fix it faster? Now we know what caused it, don't we? No. I always knew what the reason was. I had to repair everything piece by piece, as if working in reverse order. It took 6 months, and this despite the fact that I worked a lot of overtime. Then get to the point, Peter. What is the best way to bring America to the state we have just reached? And I mean the internal work, without external contractors. You will need paper and a pen. He took them out. Promote me to manager, with a corresponding salary increase, plus a reasonable allowance abroad. Send me to San Francisco and I guarantee that I will repeat what I have achieved here. But I'm not going to exhaust myself working all hours long again. Tell them that I will help them day in and day out, but a complete fix will take a year. At this time, I can keep them in working order and fix problems along the way. I will count on choosing my own working hours. They can count on several Friday and Monday lunch breaks. And I still want to take a full vacation. I suspected it might be something like this. What else? I want them to provide me with a car and a 3-bed apartment near my place of work. 2 competent assistants will shorten the project to 9 to 10 months. I can finance your salary increase and travel arrangements. And I'm sure they'll find 2 assistants and provide you with a rental car. But short weeks? And 3 bedrooms? They won't like it. You are the boss. You have to tell them that this is how it should be. It can be done faster if they bring in specialists, but it will cost them, us, much more than my suggestion. It's not about me racing up and down the Pacific Coast Highway. It's about spending time with my boys. Tell me on Monday how things are going. I don't think I've ever been so decisive with Cliff, but I was sure that I would get what I wanted. I was the center of attention. They could have done the job in 2 months if they were willing to throw a lot of money at the problem and put up with at least a week of downtime. But my demands will be cheaper. If they can't satisfy me, maybe I'll leave and try my luck elsewhere. Cliff should know about this. When I returned, Una was in a playful mood, but I was not in the mood. I deliberately told her vaguely about the problems at work. She was never interested in technical issues. She looked especially beautiful on Monday morning. Do you look very glamorous? Another party? I don't think so. I need another deal. 2 guys are coming from Italy. If I manage to do this, I will become the unsurpassed seller of the year. Rob, my closest competitor, was supposed to do this. But I told the CEO that I was unhappy that he would get it because I know a little Italian. He said he was trying to even the odds. It doesn't sound very businesslike. This is not a game. That's what I said. Anyway, poor Poor old Rob sprained his ankle. Gavin called me yesterday, and he doesn't want these guys to get a pitch from someone in a cast. He called the Italians, and they are waiting for his best saleswoman to meet them at the airport. I'm glad for you. Will they sign the contract today? No. They'll arrive at lunch, and I'll bring them to the office so they can meet Gavin and look at our terms. From there, go straight to dinner at their hotel. Gavin, of course, will be present, making sure that I don't sneak into their room. Then they'll have an early night, and I'll be home until 9. Won't he make sure you don't come back and visit them? He'll probably have someone at the hotel to keep an eye on them. As for me sneaking back to the hotel, you'll have to make sure I stay at home. I can do it. I hope that didn't mean she would want to make love. I'll have to come up with an excuse. My main meeting is tomorrow at their hotel. Not in their room, of course. Gavin had booked one of their public meeting rooms. I will perform on my own. I will be able to buy them lunch and take as much time as it takes. And of course, someone from the staff will be watching us, running in with coffee and cookies every 10 minutes. I'll probably come home early tomorrow afternoon while the Italians are discussing this. The next day, our American colleagues agreed to everything I wanted. The apartment and the car, though not the Mustang, were already organized. Cliff booked me a plane ticket for Wednesday morning. He also agreed to pay for sending a couple of boxes of my personal belongings there. The weather in California was almost unchanged. I hoped that she would be like that. Take the day off tomorrow, Peter. Just call me on Wednesday before you go to the airport to confirm that everything is going according to plan. What will Una say about this? I made it clear that you would have to pay all her expenses. She's staying here. She's making too much money to leave. Well, good luck to you. He stood up and we shook hands. I wondered if I'd ever see him again. I was going to spend a year on the edge of Silicon Valley. My skills could be useful there. I had a feeling Cliff was suspicious of something like that. The rest of the day was spent cleaning the table and saying goodbye. I returned home early, packed all my things, and sent them on the road. I won't need a checked-in suitcase on Wednesday. Hand luggage will be enough. I called Lynn, confirmed that I had just paid for 3 months of rent, and said that this was my notice to leave the house. I wasn't going to miss it. He should contact Una directly to arrange a final check. Oh, and I solved the blockage problem. Una and I have separate closets, so that evening she did not notice that I had packed all my personal belongings. I told her that I had been to the doctor in the afternoon to check for stomach problems. He did some tests and decided that I might have an ulcer. No love today, baby. The drugs he gave me make me sick. If it's an ulcer, it's because of all the overtime you're doing. You need to cut back on your work a little bit. Don't worry. From now on, I will treat everything much easier. As our American cousins would say, having fun. On Tuesday morning, Una was dressed up and writhing again. I hugged her tightly. Go and catch them, baby. Dazzle these Italian stallions with your charm. Thanks. Well, I have to get out early, so good luck. I'll be home around 6, and you can tell me how it went. I'll tell you. Be a good girl. I left, but not for work. I went to Vic's used car store. He only gave me $1,000 for the car. I was supposed to meet $1,200, but I couldn't. $1,000 would be better exchanged for dollars. I knew that Una would be staying with the Italians at least until lunch, so I looked for a restaurant. There is no point in going to McDonald's or KFC. There are plenty of them in America. I stopped for an early lunch at Maggie's all-day breakfast restaurant. Very English. I returned to the house around noon, stuffed the last things into a small backpack, and hid it in an empty closet. The window of our kitchen overlooks a short alley to our fenced garden, and I ventured to slightly open it. We had a large potted plant on the bar, which I moved to one end to block the view from the living room to the kitchen, where I hoped to hide. I unlocked the back door and put the phone on video. Then he returned to the front window to observe. Una arrived at 2:30. As she got out of the car, black-clad legs flashed for a moment. While she was unlocking the door, I managed to slip out the back door. I was standing on that important metal inspection hatch and peeking through the kitchen window. I heard her cross the tiny hall a few centimeters away from me and enter the bathroom. The toilet was flushed, and I felt a slight vibration of the lid as the water gushed under my feet. She came back and stood by the window where I had just been. I guessed who she was waiting for. She was no longer wearing tights. The Italians came, and she escorted them to the sofa. When she entered the kitchen, I pressed myself against the back door. Soon I heard the pop of a wine bottle opening. Did you leave through the underground parking lot? Yes, it was easy. The elevator went right down there, and a taxi picked us up from there. Be sure to tell the taxi driver to drop you off there when you return. Necessarily. She brought them 3 glasses of wine on a tray. The men stood up to toast the fruitful relationship and sat down again. Una stood in front of them, and they all lowered their glasses. It will be easier if I help you take off your trousers, gentlemen. They unbuckled their belts and began to pull them off. That was my moment. I didn't want to sneak in until I was sure they would start. When all 3 of them were consumed with love, they started, and I quietly opened the back door and crept up to the plant. I pointed my phone around the pot and started filming. If I am discovered, I will agree to anything that can be incriminated. When they finished, the boys were still lying side by side on the couch in their t-shirts. Then she did something she had never done to me. To be honest, she never had to. I was proud of her. Who's the first one? What is it? She asked. 5 minutes later, I heard her. As soon as I heard that the toilet was flushed and the shower was running, I returned through the back door. Ignoring Una's scattered underwear, I just managed to grab her phone. There was someone in her contacts who I needed. He was listed under the name CEO, not Gavin. I called him from my phone and convinced his secretary that it was urgent. Is it true that you monitor the morality of your employees? Who is this? Peter, the partner of your best saleswoman, Una. More precisely, a former partner. I remember you. Yes, it's true. Then get ready to receive some video clips that I just shot. As soon as he received them, I briefly told him about the situation and asked him to listen to the details of the escape of the Italians from the hotel. Then I briefly explained to him what my special photo taken earlier refers to. Tell her not to come tomorrow, he said. Sorry, buddy, this is your job. Tell her yourself. I would suggest, face-to-face in front of her colleagues. I hung up the phone and sent my first outdoor photo to Una's phone. When I came down with my backpack, she was coming into the living room wrapped in a bath towel. Her jaw dropped. Oh, what are you doing at home? And where are you going? Shut your mouth, Una. You look like a goldfish. To answer your questions, I came home to get my backpack, since I won't be here today. I'll spend the night at the same hotel where your Italian friends live. But when I get there, I'll use the front door, not through the parking lot. Her mouth opened even more. But why? What's happening? All the explanation you need is in the photo that I just sent to your phone. I looked down at him lying on the couch. Bye. I walked out the front door for the last time, whistling California. Here I am. Without a car, of course, I had to walk to the hotel. I didn't see any Italians that evening. I wondered if Una would show up to meet me, but she wasn't in sight. Quite understandable in the circumstances. The next morning I went to the airport. Una was going to have a bad day. Work, bonuses, rent a house. In the taxi, I smiled, took another look at the photo I sent her. An open inspection hatch and a blockage directly above the sewer. A lot of brown paper could be clearly seen.